makes gas furnaces with
Florida, and that has been bringing some strong thunderstorms over the weekend to the southern half of the state. It's been bringing a lot of rainfall as well. Today, since midnight, about 1/4 inch in Miami. But for the year, you are running very wet, about 15 inches above average, and unfortunately it looks like you could pick up a few more thunderstorms today, but none of that has any potential for developing into a tropical system, just plenty of tropical moisture to be had. And checking out our water vapor imagery, and you can see the brighter whites here, and that's where we do have a lot of that moisture. We also are looking at one tropical wave here that's been interacting with an area of low pressure in the upper levels, and that has been flaring up a few rain showers out over the open waters, and that continues to progress off to the west. Another tropical wave here that we will discuss, a trough, and then another wave that is going to be heading off to the west. And so now let's get into the dirty details. First of all, the tropical moisture in South Florida continues to head up to the north. The latest on the radar shows those thunderstorms in the southern tip of the state beginning to move closer to Miami, so you have another opportunity, whether you want it or not, to fill up that rain gauge for this afternoon. Heading back out into the Caribbean, you could see the flare-up of clouds and showers associated again with that tropical wave that has been rolling on to the west. And we also have been seeing some rain in Puerto Rico over the past 24 hours. Right now, mostly just a few clouds, but throughout the afternoon we could see those sea breezes collide and bring up a heavy thunderstorm, especially in some of the interior areas. So the possibility of a quick heavy downpour, but we're not looking for a tropical wave to affect that area in the next day. The next tropical wave, though, is just now moving off the screen, and that has a slight possibility of a little bit of further development. We will continue to keep an eye on it. Right now it's encountering a little bit of westerly shear and some of the cloud tops being torn off with that. But it's going to be entering into an area that's a little bit favorable for development with high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere, so that one we will monitor. We've also been watching this wave as it moves off the coast of Africa, and it also is in a slight window of opportunity with high pressure here, but it's going to be running into a trough in our upper levels, and that is going to make it very difficult for it to develop any further. We are watching Olaf weaken quickly. Now a tropical depression with maximum sustained winds down to 30 miles an hour, and the latest statement from the National Hurricane Center said that it was very difficult, if not impossible, to find a center of circulation associated with Olaf, so this will be the last advisory, unless they always put the unless in there. It is moving off to the west, and so it's going to be back out over the waters, and it has a possibility of redeveloping, so we will monitor that very closely for you. In the meantime, it is continuing to bring some showers and thunderstorms along the coastline, and heavy rain is possible there. Also, we're watching the convection and the rain here, but no signs of any further development with that. That's another area that we're watching very closely. And this is Typhoon Ginger. Maximum sustained winds now down this morning to about 105 miles an hour, and it is cruising off to the northeast at about 30 miles an hour, and it eventually is going to be bringing some moisture into the Pacific Northwest in the United States. A series of fronts and impulses are going to be coming around our trough that is sitting well offshore, and part of that is going to be the moisture from Ginger, and so we're looking for a wet scenario today due to this front by later on tonight and late afternoon into tonight, and then for tomorrow we could see a few
Well, as we wind up the month of September, we have looked at one of the quietest mid-seasons in the Atlantic hurricane season in a great many years. We had just one storm in September, none in August. Now, we've had a total of 5 so far this year, but they all occurred in June and July. In fact, mostly in July. The first one on, I believe, was a depression on the last day of June. And then the other 4 actually formed in June, and only 1 in September. In spite of the fact that as we look at the climatology and look at this 10-day period here, there have been a total of 90 over the 110 or so years. And you can see that they were spread out pretty much over the Atlantic, some right off the African coast and all the way back into the Caribbean and off the East Coast. Now, we want to show you what the next 10 days look like, and there are a couple of changes we'd like to point out to you. First of all, you don't see very many anymore out here in the East Atlantic, although the first few days of October, a few have formed. But one feature of this map that really stands out is the concentration of origins that we've had in the Western Caribbean. And this is exactly the prime area that we begin to look for once we get well into October. A good many of these don't form necessarily from tropical waves that have moved on across, but they could form near an old front after the front comes down and gets stationary, say, through the Florida Straits and through the Southeast Gulf or the Northwest Caribbean. But today, as we look out, we don't see any development of that nature at all. So far, nothing that leads us to believe that we're likely to see anything develop from that quarter. And I'll tell you why in just a second as we look at